In October of 2012, we experienced the sweetest and most bitter day of our lives when our first child, Killian, was born. We were so excited to start our new life with him that we never anticipated what was going to happen that day in the delivery room. My labor began and progressed normally after a healthy pregnancy, but soon there was an increasing atmosphere of panic when the nurses were suddenly unable to find our baby's heartbeat. The room immediately filled up with hospital staff, and we were not told much except that our baby had to be delivered immediately. I knew deep down that our child's survival depended on what happened in those next several minutes. When he was delivered, our joy was quickly turned to panic as he was whisked away from us onto a table where he began to receive resuscitation efforts. As the minutes ticked by, we prayed that there was only a small setback in Killian's entrance into this world, and after 45 minutes, he finally started showing signs of spontaneous heartbeat and breathing. However, he would need extensive medical care for what we thought was going to be a full recovery. After conferring with our doctor, we made a decision that Killian had to be life-flighted to NICU at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. We continued to receive optimistic updates as we prepared ourselves to accompany our son to a place where we thought he would make a full recovery from the blood that he had sustained, the loss of blood that he had sustained due to my placenta rupturing. That's when we received the news that no parent should ever have to receive. His flight doctor entered our room, closed the door, and with a very shaky voice, told us our son's prognosis was very poor and it would take more than a miracle for him to survive. This hit us like a ton of bricks. Our prayers became more desperate and we pleaded to God for that miracle to happen. We tried to wrap our minds around the doctor's words for the next 2 hours as we drove to Pittsburgh to be with Killian, and they became a full reality when his NICU doctor explained that our son's major organs were too damaged to sustain his small life. With very heavy hearts, but a trust in God's plan for Killian, we decided that all life-saving machines had to be removed. At that time, we thought we would only have moments until he would pass. God granted us 6 hours with our little fighter. He let us spend time together as a family. As the beautiful sunshine filled the room that morning, Killian opened his eyes for the first time, and while we were holding him, he took his last breath. Together we felt as though Killian saw the face of Jesus at that moment, and he was safe in the arms of love.
The next several months were the most trying times of our lives, but we were carried through by a strength that could not have been summoned on our own. There were moments when the anger towards God happened. We questioned him and asked him why. Why Killian? Why us? One day Kimberly heard a quote on a Christian music station, and it was as though God was speaking directly to her. It went, "Can you trust me with this experience, even if I never tell you why?" It suddenly became clear that we shouldn't be asking why us, but why not us. God never promised us a pain-free life, but he promised to carry us through the pain. The prayers from our church family and the hours spent with Pastor Dave showed us that we were never alone on this journey and reminded us that God will be our shepherd through this very dark valley. Through our faith, as well as the overwhelming support from our friends, the family, co-workers, employers, and even strangers, we were able to use our affliction to find meaning in Killian's short life. Out of 2 blood drives in his memory, 150 units of blood have been collected, some from donors who may not have otherwise donated if it weren't for hearing his story. We are comforted in knowing that many lives will continue because of the blood that was donated in his honor. We were also blessed with a friend who collaborated with us to create a scholarship in Killian's name for a physical therapy student at Slippery Rock University. The recipient of this award was chosen to be rewarded for her selfless mission work in third world countries. We also felt God's guidance in reaching out to other couples who have lost children either early in pregnancy or after birth, sharing the strength that we receive because of our relationship with Jesus Christ. Lastly, God gave us the courage to stay steadfast in our marriage and continue to expand our family. As the time draws near to welcome our second child, we continue to pray for the same courage to face a delivery day with the faith that he is in complete control and a peace that passes all understanding.
I'm LJ, it's my wife Jamie, and our miracle came to, as Pastor Dave said, it was July 4th. It was a beautiful day. Our family had just left, and Jamie was getting ready to go to bed, and she let out a scream that I will never forget for the rest of my her rushing for a hospital. And a lot of people know where Pickles is. At that light, I was truly at a crossroad. It was continue to Altoona or turn right to Nason Hospital. And at that moment, the Lord made that decision easy for me because something said, turn right now. So as I head into Nason Hospital and we get inside, the doctor says, we can't help you. We have to send you to Altoona. And knowing how serious it was, I knew Jamie was not going to make it to Altoona Hospital. Luckily, there was a doctor there who said, well, let's take an ultrasound and see just exactly what's going on. And during the process of this ultrasound, this gentleman walks in with a Bible in his hand and looks at us and says, it's going to be all right. We're gonna keep you guys here, and we're going to do everything we can to help you. As they were prepping Jamie for emergency surgery, I could see the look on the technicians and the nurses' faces, and it was the scariest thing that you could ever imagine. She was extremely close, the two of them, of not making it. And Jamie and I started to pray. And sorry. The next thing I remember is them telling me I had to leave my family. And they took Jamie away. And Mom, Pops, and Carrie and Kelly had shown up to support us, as always. And thank you guys so much for that. Pastor Dave, thank you again. I had no idea what was going on with my family. I wanted to be with my family. Next thing we know, as we're waiting to find out what's going on, this little thing goes flying right by us. And that was the beginning of the rest of my life as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of things happen in this world that are truly bad. And one thing I always seem to remember is people are always, where was God? How could this happen? I can tell you one thing. I know exactly where God was on July 5th. He was in a small town in central Pennsylvania with my family.
When I was recovering in Nason, then one of the nurses came in and she actually said that the doctor that delivered her sometimes gets results that they don't really expect, and a lot of them think it's because of his religion, because he carries his Bible with him everywhere. So I definitely know that he was supposed to be there that night for us. And God was definitely there with us in the months to come. When we were in Nason, we were in Conemaugh, we were in Children's in Pittsburgh. There's so many times I can be here for hours telling you about how he helped us and how prayers were answered, but just to give you a couple of examples, she was 5 days old and LJ had to go back to work and I couldn't drive yet. So Pastor Dave volunteered to take me to Johnstown. And I had called that morning, she was doing fine, and we get there and there's doctors and nurses all around her, and the doctor starts telling me she's very sick, there's all these things that could be wrong, all these tests they have to do, and they may have to life flight her to a different hospital, and it was completely overwhelming. And we got to talking about how Pastor Dave was my pastor, and the doctor looked at me and said, he's the right one to have with you today because we can only administer the medicine, but somebody else does the healing. So there we were again with a doctor who knew the power of God, and they administered the right medicines and God did the healing, and she got past everything. And there was another time when we were about 2 months into the journey. We were in Pittsburgh and we were kind of at a standstill with her recovery. You know, she was having testing issues and they had to stop feeding her, and they were trying to get her to drink from a bottle, and they thought she was aspirating, so they were trying to decide what tests to run, and that's when I came home and we had the benefit, and everyone here was praying for her, and within a week and a half after that, she came out of the incubator. All of a sudden, her intestine problems just went away. There's no answers. She started eating from a bottle, and they didn't have to do any tests. And about a week after that, so we came home after 75 days in the hospital. So I know this whole process definitely brought LJ and I closer to God. And the one time I had a conversation with Pastor Dave when he came to visit us, and he started talking about being angry at God, and I think he was a bit surprised by my answer. And I said, "Oh, I'm not mad at God." I said, "I've seen way too many miracles in this journey." I said, "There was way too many prayers answered, and that July 4th night, he answered our prayers and decided to save the two of us. There's no way I could be angry at God." And through the whole journey, holding her, and this, just to give you an example, this is how small she was. That's the diaper she wore for the first couple weeks of her life. And in those days when she was that tiny and she had so many wires and machines and tubes that, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, we didn't even know what she looked like. And there was days that would go by where maybe I could hold her a half hour, or maybe I couldn't hold her at all. The only thing that I could do was just pray, and pray that he would heal her, and we're so thankful that he did, because now we have a healthy, sweet, happy 7-month-old.